new LinkedIn Hiring Pro can't undo your last hire, the no-show. Who set you back because they didn't show up on day one, or day two, or ever again. And now your product launch is delayed because you're talking to alien abduction podcasters to track them down. But LinkedIn Hiring Pro can help make sure your next hire sticks. In fact, businesses who use LinkedIn are 24% less likely to reopen a role in the next 12 months. Hire right the first time with LinkedIn Hiring Pro. Post a free job today at linkedin.com/quality.
This summer, soccer is here, and so are the watch parties. And Uber Eats has your game day essentials covered. Everything you need to keep your crowd happy, delivered straight to your door. Get wings, pizza, chips, dips, fresh ingredients, and more. Keep the soccer going and all your game day essentials flowing. Order in so you can lock in for the games. Only on Uber Eats for a limited time.
Who's ready for America's birthday with Trump accounts? And we're going to talk a little bit about management and leadership. Enjoy! Thanks so much for tuning into the Age of Jeremy. My name's Jeremy Quintanilla. This is a show about my business adventures and side quests. If you are new to this show, thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure that you subscribe, you like, you share it so that we can get it in front of more people every day. You're listening to the main segment of Age of Jeremy, where I go over something in personal finance that I think is important for you guys to know, and then a little bit about what is going on with my businesses and the things that I'm learning along the way. I own a company called 3T Warrior Academy. It does close to about 8 figures a year. And then I also own a company called Freedom Insurance that does 7 figures a year. I own a company that the Age of Radio that is about 5 figures a year that we're working on getting that bad boy to 6 figures because that is one of my biggest passion projects. And I also help design and create Merlin, the smartest way to track your crypto, from my software company Blockheads. My business partner is Coach JV, so make sure that you follow him at CoachJV_. Make sure that you follow me at Age of Jeremy wherever you get your social media, and also join my dope insights and updates. If you want to know everything that's going on in the Age of Jeremy verse, I also do a show called Mercury about podcasting and pop culture news that goes live on Fridays on YouTube at Mercury by Age of Radio. And that's a show that I do with my good friends, creator Trey, and some of my other friends that have been building businesses with me with Age of Radio for many years. We're also going to be down at Tucson Comic Con. So if you're in the Arizona metropolitan area, that wouldn't help you because this would be down in Tucson. So if you're in Southern Arizona or you're in the metropolitan area and you are interested in comic books, come down to Tucson Comic Con. We won't have a booth this year, but we're going to be doing a live running gun segment as a media team. So we actually got media passes for the first time in 2 years doing these events, having booths, getting our name out there. So again, these things take consistency and time. And finally, we were invited to actually as a media guest. So I will have access to all of the media at the event to do interviews and to get commentary and pictures with. So I'm really excited for what we're going to be doing with this specific segment. So make sure that you follow me on social media so you know everything that is going on. The other thing that I want to let you know about, and then we'll get started, is I do have a show called the New Wealth Transfer Podcast with Coach JV. I'm going to do so much content this year that you aren't going to know what hits you, and we're going to continue to get better because I love making content. So that is on the Coach JV YouTube channel. Yes, I said that is different than the 3T Warrior Academy channel. It is now the Coach JV channel. So make sure that you go check that out. I'm really excited about where that brand is going, what 3T Warrior Academy is doing, how we're segmenting that, and the amazing live show and content that we're doing. He also did a live show this morning at 8 a.m. He's going to be going live Monday, Wednesday, Friday on the Coach JV YouTube channel. So make sure that you check that out if you want to know what's going on with that. And I lied to you. I have one last thing I want to mention. I have a show called Markets Radar where I break down what is important in the markets, stocks, bonds, crypto, everything in between. And I break it down on what I think it all means. That is currently on the Age of Jeremy feed. It goes out on Tuesdays and on Saturdays. So make sure that you like and subscribe so you know that. And eventually it will be going to a brand new feed. So be on the lookout for all of that. All right, let's jump into today's show. Well, happy birthday, America. America just had its 250th anniversary, and July 4th, the Trump accounts went live. So we're going to dig into the brand new financial tool known as the Trump accounts for children. Sounds a little weird and creepy. You guys know that I'm not a big Trump supporter, but maybe these are beneficial. Maybe they're good. I know that there was a Michael Dell that actually donated to this. And oddly enough, Michael Dell had a large contract that went through from the government, if I'm not mistaken. So again, a little bit of crony capitalism here, but Ken Griffith says there is no crony capitalism. So I don't know what to believe when the facts are that crony capitalism is alive and well in the United States. The Trump accounts are custodial individual retirement accounts for children operating under special rules until the year the child turns 18. The biggest headline here is the $1,000 in government seed money provided by the Treasury Department. Over 500,000 children already received this cash when the program opened. So if you had a child that was born during a specific period of time and you open one of these, the Trump administration or the government will give that $1,000 as a government handout. So again, we're not going to talk about the hypocrisy here. To get the $1,000, the child must be a U.S. citizen with a social security number, born between January 1st, 2025 and December 31st, 2028. However, the accounts are generally available for any child with a social security number who is under 18. So this is free money, but there are strings attached. Now, taking the $1,000 is a no-brainer since it's essentially free seed money, but the government programs always come with complex tax strings attached to them. So parents, one, have to opt in. You do this by filing out a new IRS tax form, Form 4547, and attach it to your tax return or submit it via an IRS online account. After that, you have to activate it on the Trump Account app or TrumpAccount.com, which, I'm not against him putting his name on everything. Everything that I touch, I put Quintanilla on. So I don't know, I'm going to let that go. Now, you don't have to be a stock picker. At launch, all contributions are automatically invested in the State Street Spider portfolio, S&P 500 ETF. I use that ETF myself. I use that to help diversify across all the other investments that I have by having something that is directly indexed to the S&P 500, which most of the time people cannot outdo. The Treasury is also lining up other low-cost index ETFs from BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard, so there will be other options that are available to you in the future. So who should and shouldn't add money? So relatives can contribute up to $5,000 annually in after-tax dollars, and employers can also kick it up to $2,500, which can even come from your pre-tax salary. Now, charities and wealthy individuals are also being urged to contribute. Financial advisors are warning most parents not to add their own money to these accounts. Why? Because traditional 529 college saving plans or standard custodial accounts offer much better tax advantages for your personal contributions. Which you should reach out to a tax advisor in regard to that. Now, advisors say that you should only add your own family money to a Trump account if you are wealthy, have already completed, maxed out your 529 plans, and want to jumpstart a massive retirement nest egg for your kid. There are some better alternatives. Okay, so you shouldn't just blindly dump your savings into this new account. Again, the Trump account's tax-deferred status, where you pay income tax later, with a 529 or a custodial Roth IRA, where the earnings can actually come out tax-free. So one of them is a tax-deferred account. The others can be tax-free. Make sure that you reach out to a tax consultant. Now, if you guys don't know, I do tax consulting. You could reach out to me on social media. There's a form that you can fill out. I can sit down with you. We can talk about the benefits of working with Q Financial. Adversely, you can reach out to me at jeremy.quintanilla@qfinancial.com qfinancialllc.com as well, or visit our website at qfinancial.com. One of my favorite things is sitting down, looking at the tax code, looking at your specific situation, and figuring out how we can save you tax dollars by creating an actual tax plan for you. Now, the tax trap, some people might call this, and the 18-year-old problem. The money in a Trump account grows tax deferred, meaning you don't pay taxes on dividends and capital gains while it sits there, but you will owe income taxes upon withdrawal. Just like a regular IRA, if the kid withdraws money before age 59 and a half, they will owe a 10% early distribution penalty. There are exceptions, like you can use the fund for higher education or up to $10,000 for a first-time home purchase. Now, if you add after-tax money to the account, you can't just withdraw your contribution tax-free like you can with a Roth IRA. Every withdrawal is proportionally taxed based on the earnings and the original money, also known as the seed money that was in the account. Now, on January 1st of the year, the child that turns 18, they can legally empty the account and use the money absolutely for anything, which in my opinion, is one of the actual benefits of this account. So let's say you have a toddler, you've been doing this since they were a little baby toddler, and they turn 18 and they're like, man, I want to be an entrepreneur, or man, I want to go to, I just want to start, I guess, an entrepreneur, or they just want to use the money to live off of, and they have like a regular stable job and they just want to use it to invest it or whatever the case is. In that event, when they turn 18, they can legally take out all of that money. It will be subject to income taxes on the withdrawal and the 10% penalty if it's not for an approved exception, like say buying a car. So you're gonna have to talk to a tax advisor. You're gonna have to do some research on where these specifically go and what they come out of. Okay, so there is a massive risk of an 18-year-old also getting access to decades of S&P 500 growth. Now, when you can convert the account to a Roth IRA at 18 is the smartest financial move for decades of tax-free growth. So when the child turns 18, they can actually convert this account to a Roth IRA, and that could continue tax-free growth. But it entirely depends on the teenager choosing not to cash it out for a quick payday. Okay, so again, you could do this if you have a brand new child. You could get the $1,000 in seed money, or you could stick to a 529 plan. It all depends on your specific situation. If you follow myself and Coach JV at the 3T Warrior Academy, my number one thing is about sovereignty and you learning how to do investments and take sovereignty over your own wealth. But these both add tax advantages in some capacity, tax deferred in the instance of the Trump account, and then also tax free as it relates to maybe a 529 plan or to a Roth plan. But again, make sure that you talk to your tax advisor, or you can reach out to us at qfinancialllc.com and get our take on it, and we can sit down for a one-on-one. We'll be right back. I'm watching a lot of K-dramas lately. They're taking over the world. They're amazing. And I was watching one called The Extraordinary Attorney Woo. And spoiler alert, there is an instance where there's an attorney, not Woo, in the show, great show by the way, that gets stomach cancer, and he reflects on his work and what he's accomplished and whether or not it was worth it. And Woo thinks that it was worth it, but he lost his wife and focused everything on work. And so in tandem with that, I've been buying a lot of stuff from IKEA, which is a Swedish company. So I started looking into like the output of Nordic countries and some of their theories on work, because they tend to be a society that works much less than the American society, and they have much more GDP output per individual work. And a lot of that is because in the United States, we value a grind culture, where in the Nordic countries, they tend to value products and services that are going to provide the most value. One, and then two, they provide what a lot of people call a work-life balance. And I think there's a misnomer when people say work-life balance. It means managing the things that are important to you in general. And so if you're managing the things that are important to you in general, and those things include working and include your family and raising children, then there is something that can be said for the happiness that's associated with that as an overall individual. And I think that we also live in a society where there's a lot of suffering, and that we shouldn't be focused on being happy. And I actually disagree with that. I think that we should be focused on being happy, but happiness can be derived from our purposefulness. And the purposefulness doesn't necessarily have to be about work. It could be about family. It could be what you want to leave in your legacy. And so as I've been thinking a lot about that, I've also been thinking about leadership and management, and how if we're stronger leaders and stronger managers, then we might also be able to provide a better work-life balance, because the whole idea of having people or having new technology is to have more output with less work effort. Okay. And so there is this thing in my mind that I'm trying to figure out where is the best place to start. And a lot of that has to do with the leadership and management style. And when you're inside of a business for a long period of time, like I have been for the last 9 years, you don't spend a lot of time focusing on the management and the leadership, the training aspect of it, right? Because you're trying to figure out skills that can go into whatever it is that you're trying to accomplish or the thing that you're trying to build. And we forget that the skills of management and leadership are things that should be actually looked at, tested, theorized on, used. You have to flex that muscle, and I have not been flexing that muscle up until recently. So I wanted to look at a few foundational concepts as they deal with leadership and management for myself, and then also share them with you. And Peter Drucker tends to be considered the father of modern management, and someone that we should look to when we're looking at these strategies, because he had some very interesting concepts. And there's also a really deadly cost of bad management, especially as it relates to especially as it relates to the life and death of a business, right? There's a new global report from the International Labor Organization that reveals that more than 840,000 people die every year from health conditions linked to psychosocial risks as it relates to work. So we have this really weird conundrum in the world where technology was supposed to allow us to flourish with working less, but because of capitalism, we've pushed that to a concept of constantly working more so that we could have more shareholder value, which is one of the biggest problems with Milton Friedman's thoughts, in my opinion, as it relates to Friedman's economic outlook. Okay, so what are these risks? There's the long working hours, job insecurity, high demands with low control, toxic workplace. There's poorly managed work environments that cause people heart disease, that cause people strokes, that cause people severe mental disorders, accounting for nearly 45 million healthy life years lost annually. The more that we work, the less that our life is. The more that we stress, the less that our life is, right? All healing, at least from a mystic perspective, it comes from our ability to relax and to not have anxiety or depression. And so if bad management is causing this much physical and mental damage, doesn't a business have a fundamental social responsibility to fix it, even if it costs them profits? And this is one of the biggest debates that I have, is that the reason why we build businesses, in my opinion, isn't for profits. The reason why we build businesses is to build something inside of the world. Most of the greatest, if we look at Elon Musk, the byproduct of him solving problems has made him a trillionaire. I don't know if he sits around being like, I want to be the richest person in the world or whatever. Let's say he doesn't. He's there because he provides this ridiculous amount of value. Okay. But he also works a lot. And my guess is that, that puts a lot of strain on his family. Most of his children, some of his children he's estranged from. I shouldn't say all of them. Most of his children was estranged from him, and he might put himself in an early grave. But was that worth it? It might have been, depending on what it is that he wanted out of life. And that goes back to people doing what they want out of life as well. But if we look at this, on one hand, you have Milton Friedman's traditional view, which argues that a business's only social responsibility is to increase profits. Then there's Archie Carroll, who famously pushed back, saying businesses actually have 4 responsibilities. They have an economic responsibility, they have a legal responsibility, they have an ethical responsibility, and they have a discretionary responsibility. Peter Drucker took it a step further. He believed that government often fails to solve social problems. Now, I don't 100% agree with that, but I can see from a capitalist anti-government standpoint why this could be thought of and why that could be the case. And so his thought process was companies should actually step up and turn their social responsibilities into business opportunities. But Drucker also warned that the corporate mission still has to come first, because if the business fails to be profitable, it can't help society at all. Okay. The key is that a healthy psychosocial working environment where tasks have meaning, expectations are clear, and workers have autonomy actually boosts organizational performance and the bottom line. And so if there's good ethics, then the business gets good output, and those businesses can be corporately sociable. And again, this also or socially responsible. This also goes to the concept of corporations or corporate companies that are owned by all the people inside of them. So even if we look at this from a communistic standpoint, where the businesses own the people inside of the business own the business, right? Or if it's just a few small people, both of them still need that profit to create the social responsibility. So they need to drive profits, but it shouldn't be the main purpose. The main purpose should be the mission. And if you're focusing on the mission, the profits will come, and then you can become socially responsible. Now, Drucker believed that you cannot manage others if you do not first manage yourself. And that's one of the things that I think that we have really been focusing on, or I've been focusing on over these last couple of years, is continuously managing myself even better, but then realizing that I'm not actually going out and then managing others, which that's where more of the problem is that we usually do this managing first thing. We do that thing really, really well, but I don't continuously try to get better at managing other people. It's a two-way system here. One of the most critical elements of self-management is knowing how you process information. Okay, so this is one of the first place that I want to see. So let's say you need to kind of managing yourself and discover yourself. I feel that myself and the people that are around me are good at this for the most part, or trying to get better at these things. I think where me personally falls short is then managing other people and holding them accountable. Okay. But if we're talking about ourselves, we have to understand how we process information. So Peter Drucker points out that Dwight Eisenhower was a brilliant reader who required questions in writing half an hour before press conferences. But when he became president, he tried to be a listener like FDR, and he floundered miserably. You have to know your dominant style and force your environment to match that. Me personally, I have to know as much as I can about a situation as possible before I can make an assessment of that specific situation, right? And so some people, may not want to know everything about it. I know that that's about me. So I have to read things. I have to be up to date. I have to know what's going on in the entire business. Not everybody manages that specific way themselves. But if you're that person, you need to figure out exactly how you can self-manage yourself so that then you could be productive in how you're actually doing management and stick to that management style, even if your specific role changes. Most ambitious people think they know exactly what they are good at. And one of the things that we need to find out is what our strengths are. We are usually wrong about our own strengths, and it's very difficult to see them because we can only see things from our own perception. Drucker famously said that the most people think they know their strengths, but they are usually wrong. The only reliable way to discover what you are actually good at is through a process called feedback analysis. Here is how you do it. Whenever you make a key decision, write down exactly what you expect to happen. Then 9 or 12 months later, compare the actual result with your expectation. If you practice this consistently for many, many years, it will ruthlessly expose where your strengths lie, and just as importantly, where your intellectual arrogance is causing disabling ignorance. One of the things that create the greatest leaders isn't that they know everything. It isn't that they're smart. It's that they're self-aware of their own mishaps and the things that they specifically suck at, which is one of the reasons why I enjoy my podcast so much, because it gives me really a good way to be like, what the hell could I have done specifically different? For example, just a couple of months ago, there was a situation where there was a problem with, what was it? There was a problem with an event that we were doing or something along those lines. And then I got another person involved. I started freaking everybody out. I did not manage the crisis management that well. And so when I look at it, I'm like, okay, well, maybe I'm not good at crisis management, or I need to take a step back and breathe before I make an assessment on what it is that needs to be done, so I'm not acting all crazy, going around willy-nilly, getting everybody else specifically anxious. And so I try to reflect on these things, as you should, maybe through a journal, maybe through a leadership diary that says, okay, what could I have done better in this specific situation? What was my expected outcome of this? And did I get that? And if I didn't, okay, maybe this is an area where I need to work on. Now, you also have the 5 questions and management by objectives, which is also called an MBO. So once you manage yourself, you manage the organization. Drucker says that every leader must relentlessly ask 5 questions. What is your mission? What is your mission can also be like your personal principles. Like, I know the missions for my specific businesses, but I also like the mission for my life, which is compassion, integrity, leaving the world better than I found it, and then building the tribe, growing the tribe, and protecting the tribe. Those are like my main key principles. That's my main mission. I have to know that to be able to manage myself and to manage others and to manage my family. Okay, so you have to know who your mission is. You have to know who your customer is. You have to know what your customer values, and you have to know what are your results and what is the plan for those specific results. Now, your mission should never just be about making money. It should be short, it should be sharply focused, and it should inspire people. And when you figure out who your customer is, remember that the modern goal isn't just to casually please everyone. It is to deeply please your target customer and turn them into what we like to call fans. A fan is a customer that keeps coming back. A fan is a customer that recommends you to other people. You focus on those core people, and then you dive into those specific people. Now, to get the results, you must use MBO, or management by objectives. Now, this isn't a boss barking orders. It's a collaborative process where managers and employees jointly identify common goals and define the expected results. And again, one of the biggest problems that I find in my businesses is that's what I don't do. We don't get together, or I don't get together. I'm not going to speak for all of my business. I'm going to speak for Age of Radio specifically, because I'm the main leader in that, right? We collaborate as managers, and then employers jointly identify what those common goals are and define what the expected results are. When you are not reaching a result, it's because there's not a definition of what we want as the expected result of the activities that we are specifically doing. So, for example, I have a bunch of people out there going out and trying to get people to show up for a meeting. Okay, so we haven't been doing that. So should the goal be to sell 5,000 units, or should the goal be to start closing out the rate at which people are showing up for meetings? It's the rate at which people are showing up for meetings. That should be what the goal is and what the expected result be, but I should be doing that as a collaborative process with the team. Everything can't be completely dictatorship focused, where it's like, this is what we're doing, this is what we have to do. It's let's come together and find out what makes the most sense collaboratively or together, and then focus on that specifically. And this is one of the things that I want to, kind of push, is that we have to, as a management team in my businesses, this is one of my main key areas of things that I'm trying to strengthen, not only in myself, but also if I look at my personal relationship. If I look at my marriage, the one that's ending, right? And I have a new partner now that hopefully will end up with us getting married and having at least 17 kids, no matter what she says. I'm just kidding. If we look at that, again, there wasn't a collaborative process in the relationship. and us jointly identifying common goals and defining expected results. You can literally take that concept about everything that you manage and everything that you do and apply it to it. If you are not having a collaborative process with your loved ones or your family or your partner or your children, depending on their age, and identifying common goals and defining what the expected results are, then how is anybody ever going to work together to move the business or the family forward? That's one of the main key things that I hope that you take away from this podcast today. One of the other biggest things holding organizations back is being anchored to past decisions. So Drucker noted that executives are forever bailing out the past. To fix this, leaders must engage in what's called systematic abandonment by asking one brutal question every few months. If we did not already do this, would we go into it now? Okay. If the answer is not an unconditional yes, you must eliminate that practice, product, or habit immediately. Getting rid of the things that once served you well, but now just drain your energy, frees up the bandwidth you need to focus on future opportunities, which is one of the biggest things that I'm constantly been asking myself with Age of Radio. If we didn't already do this, if I didn't already do this, would I want to do it right now? And I started cutting so many specific things. I'm not going to go into all of those because I haven't announced a lot of those things that we're going to continue to cut, but that's one of my biggest things. There's so many things that are wasting time and energy and effort that aren't producing anything, right? And so the question is, should we do this? Should we have it? Should we no longer be doing this? And the answer to a lot of those things are probably, if they're not if we wouldn't continue to be doing these or we wouldn't start them right now, then we shouldn't be doing them. And that's one of the biggest things that I've learned from looking into this and thinking about these things from a purely managerial style, right? Because I think a lot of the times we think because we're good leaders, we're going to be good managers. And the problem is a lot of times great leaders aren't great managers, but great leaders need to take the time to be great managers. And great managers also need the time to become great leaders. Every manager I know is drowning in emails. They're drowning in meetings. And so how do you actually find that time to feedback analysis, to engage in MBO and systematically abandon old projects? Okay. And the reality is executives have very little control over their own time because everyone else demands it. So if you're in a thing where everybody else is demanding your time, you have to be able to consolidate what we call your discretionary time into the largest possible chunks. So for example, lately I've been writing every single day in my Remarkable tablet. Okay, in my Remarkable tablet, which maybe I should get a link so you guys can learn about this, because we're really going to be being focusing on the things that I like and the things that I believe in to be adding into the business, because it's going to be easy for me to talk to them as far as like affiliates go. But I have a daily goal writing list inside of my Remarkable writing tablet, and I go over what the number one goal is the day and the number one goal is for the week. And my goal is to make sure that week gets done and that daily one gets done. Right? Because again, I have very little discretionary time because so many people need my time. For example, I have a meeting here in 9 minutes. I'm recording this on Monday with our chief investment officer. I have to go over some items with her. She's demanding my time to get something specifically done. And so my point was, okay, I need to make sure that I get this podcast done today, right? Because I usually record it on Mondays. So I made sure that got blocked on my calendar and nothing else is deviating me away from doing that. So you cannot lead effectively in 5-minute increments. To clear your schedule, ask yourself these 3 ruthless questions. What am I doing that does not need to be done at all? What am I doing that can be done by somebody else? And what am I doing that only I can do? Okay, you should only be doing the things that only you can do. And if you can first delegate, so you scrap the first one. What am I doing that does not need to be done? You scrap that first one completely. I scrapped a bunch of time on my schedule. You delegate the second one and you fiercely protect the time to focus solely on the third one, which is what I did for my daily. This podcast was not my main daily thing that I wanted to get done. The main daily thing that I wanted to get done, I did when I was having to be in meetings that I really could have not been at. I just focused on getting that specifically done because that was so important that it needed to get done today. And that is how you drive the business and the mission forward for what you're trying to accomplish. Okay. This is how you move just being efficient to actually being an effective executive. So I really recommend that you read The Effective Executive by Peter Drucker. It's one of the best management and leadership books that are out there. So you can go check it on Amazon. I'm not going to throw a link down in the episode. Just go type in Peter Drucker, research him, and remember that you could be a great leader and be a very shitty fucking manager. And as executives, we need to be the best of both. And with that, as I always say, be thankful, grateful, and kind, and we'll talk with you soon. Bye.
Tell me, how does it feel? Tell me, how does it feel? I see the meaning of life in your eyes. It's like swimming in the ocean at night. And when I'm with you, it's like I'm on fire. Nothing is real outside myself and your smile lines. Bring me down with sweet soft sound. My name, the way it sparkles when it leaves your mouth. Fill my soul